show you how to do the stitch pattern. And first of all, I'm going to take my small hook and I'm going to slip stitch to that first stitch. And now I'm going to switch to my chosen hook size. So I'm going with cookie yarn. It's the one I'm using, cookie yarn from Hobie. I'm going with a 5.5. This was done with a 3.5. And our pattern is very simple. I'm going to do a single crochet right into that same stitch and a double crochet in the next. And that's all there is to it. Don't you love it? So, single crochet, double crochet. And if you did the swatch, you'll see that there's just a little difference here. Now, what I also recommend doing, especially if you are more of a beginner, is to put a stitch marker. So for me, it was that first single crochet. And it's not super necessary unless you're really worried you'll mess up the count. So you can, you know, count your stitches. Just anytime you reach your stitch marker, just like make a little note, or if you're using some kind of stitch like row counter, you can do that. I usually just eyeball it, but it is very handy to have, and it'll just make it easier for me to show you how to do the to begin our spiral. So we're not doing any kind of slip stitches or rows. We're going to work now continuously until we finish our sleeve. So single crochet, double crochet. If you find that this row, the previous one, the single crochet row we did with a smaller hook, is very, very tight and you can't get into it, you can do that first row of your stitch with an in-between hook size. So for example, for me, I could do this one, the first row, with like a 5mm or 4.5 if I couldn't get my hook into this. Sorry, if I say needle, I mean hook. This is okay for me, it's not a problem, but if yours is very, very tight, if you did a very, very tight ribbing and row, you can use, just for that first row, an in-between size. That's totally okay. So I'm going to continue in pattern single crochet, double crochet. And I'm going to meet you at the end of this row. Okay, I'm at the end of my row almost. And let's just take a look at the anatomy of what we have going on here. So, this is the last single crochet of my row. This is not a single crochet, this is just a slip stitch, so I'm not gonna pay attention to it. And this is my first single crochet in my pattern, in my stitch pattern. So normally when you work back and forth, all of your rows have to end with a double crochet, but now we're working in a spiral. So I have here a double crochet, and because I have an odd number of stitches, my last stitch for the row is going to be a single crochet. Now I'm going to go straight into my first stitch and just do a double crochet into that. So I'll remove the stitch marker and yarn over, just making sure I'm going below the 2 strands, and do a double, and that's it. And now we're continuing with this pattern, which is that you put into every double crochet from the row below, you put a single, and into every single crochet you put a double. So it's very easy to see because those two are easy to distinguish. It's easy to see which is which. And so here, this one I know it's a double crochet, it's much bigger than this one, so I'm going to put a single into it. And then the next one will be a double. And that's the whole stitch pattern for the sleeves. We're just going to go continuously, except for the increases, which I will show you. So my recommendation here is to do a few rows and try on the sleeve every few rows to make sure you have the suitable width. So you can already see that I'm getting a little bit more width here, even though I didn't add any stitches. It's just because I changed my hook size and the stitch pattern. That's what's nice about this stitch pattern, besides the fact that it has really lovely texture and doesn't have that traditional, you know, rows of like double crochets. It's also lighter than the fabric you would get when you do a closed, you know, half double crochet or double crochet or single crochet. So I really like that about it. And I'm going to do a few rows and try it on, and I'll show you how to do an increase. It's very, very simple. It's extremely simple. So we'll do that next. Just making sure I have enough space, and I do. It's looking good. Let's talk about the increases. So the way that this is constructed is you increase as you go, and the way to know when you want to or need to increase is to simply try it on and see how it fits, obviously at the throughout. And for me, for example, with the Ferris wheel yarn, this version, I only started increasing here, and I intend to make this sleeve a little bit higher, not all the way till here. So my increases are almost at the shoulder level. And I'm going to show you in a second how to do the increase, but what is important here is that all the increases are done in the same place. So on this line, and this line is the top of our sleeve. So this will be eventually the shoulder here. And the reason for that is that every time we increase, the place where we increase gets a little bit more height than the other side. And this will allow for a nice construction, because the top of our arm, like that line that goes up to our shoulder, is longer than the line that goes eventually to the armpit. The armpit will be here. So what I recommend, and the way that I did all of my sweaters, and this worked perfectly, is every time you do an increase, put a stitch marker in it, and this will help you match it when you do the second one, the second sleeve, and also it will help you make sure that all of your increases are on this line at the top of the sweater. Now, the way I did this is my join is actually at the other side. So on the sweater, it's going to be here, and eventually this line will be the line that goes in the armpit and the underarm seam. So then, you know, this is kind of hidden when you wear it, even though I don't think it's very noticeable, but sometimes it has like a little variation. So I like to put that stitch here. Ooh, Spidey. And the increases are on the other side. So if you find it more comfortable, you can put a little stitch marker in your join, just to make sure you're working on the opposite edge. So this will be the underarm, like the armpit and underarm side, and this is going to be the shoulder side. I hope this is clear. If not, then leave me a comment, but I hope that this is clear, and the most important thing is just to get in the habit of trying it on. And you know, you only have to do this for the one sleeve because I guess for most of us our arms are for the most part symmetric, so if you get this sleeve right, you can just replicate everything you did on the other one. Don't get like scared if you see mine and I only have my first increase here and you have to start increasing here. I also did that when I used a DK weight yarn, and I had a more fitted sleeve. I started increasing much earlier, and I had, I think, 20 or 10 increases along the sleeve. So it's really, this is not an indication of anything how yours is supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like the way it fits you, and your increases could be every 2 rows, or it can start here, it can start here, or maybe you don't even need an increase if you're doing a really puffy sleeve. Maybe you can stay with the same length up until the armpit, which is where we're going to start the body of the sweater. So there's no right or wrong. It's exactly how it should be to fit your body. And for me, in this particular case, this is where I'm at. And I'll show you when we kind of stop with our sleeve. So I'm just going to continue working on this, and also on this version. I think I'm very ambitious working on 2 sweaters, but hopefully I can do this. So we'll see. And now I'm going to show you how to do the increase. It's super simple. Okay, so now we're going to do an increase. As I said before, I just put a stitch marker. This is the seam of the ribbing, and this one marks the first stitch in the round. It's not a must, but if you think it'll help you kind of keep track of what you're doing, then by all means have a stitch marker there. But the point is that the increases have to be in one line at the top kind of seam, which will eventually be the at the top of the shoulder. So the increases are worked into a single crochet, and they're basically nothing special. It's exactly the same stitch, but instead of putting a double crochet, which is what we would normally put into a single crochet, we're putting a double crochet, a single crochet, and a double crochet. So every increase we add 2 more stitches, but because we add a double crochet and a single crochet and a double crochet, it's exactly the same pattern. It doesn't change anything, and you can just continue working in the next row just normally like you would if there was no increase. So I'm just going to show you. This is here I have my single crochet, and I'm just going to do a double, into the same stitch a single, and into the same stitch a double crochet. So 3 stitches instead of 1. And now I'm going to take a stitch marker, and I'm going to put it in the single crochet in the middle. So here, see, I have my double crochet, I have my single crochet, and the other double. And once the stitch markers are removed after you finished both sleeves, I highly recommend marking your increases with a stitch marker. As I said, like, I just leave mine so I can match it with the second sleeve. And then once I'm done with the sleeves and I have written down what I did so I can replicate it, I can remove the stitch markers. So you can continue working as usual, and after you remove it, these will be almost indistinguishable. And on the next round, you just work exactly the same as if you did nothing. Because we didn't change anything and the stitches are exactly the same. So that's it. Super simple, very easy. And yeah, the nice thing about it is, as I said, every time you increase, it adds a little bit more height to this line, and that works very well for our anatomy. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to try on the sleeve and make sure that it is the desired length. I'm going to show you how to decide when to start creating the body of the sleeve, or when you should stop working on the sleeves and wait for the next part of the cowl. So you want to put on your sleeve, and under it you can put whatever you intend to wear under your sweater, just to make sure that, you know, the fit is as good as it can be. And for me, I do plan to wear this sweater over like a tunic or a dress or something like this. So I do have a layer under it, also to spare you staring at my armpit. But what you want to do, you want to put it on, make sure the increases are here at the top, where, you know, where your shirt seam, or just like the middle, the highest part of your shoulder, like the top of the shoulder seam, that's where the increases need to be. And then below it, you want to stop your sleeve when the underarm part is where you want it to be, basically. So I actually want this sweater to be a little bit more fitted. I have some plans for it, and this is great. This is perfect. Now, if you're doing more of an oversized sweater, you might want to stop here. So just think that we're going to do the body. The body of the sweater is just going to start at this line, just going to go straight down. So think about that. If you're not sure, you can also take a sweater that you really love and measure the length of the sleeve and just match that length if you're putting it on and you're not so sure, because this will be very easy to kind of match the size of a different sweater. So just measure with a measure tape that sleeve, and then stop working when the bottom of your sweater reaches that length of the bottom of the sleeve in your other sweater. The second one I'm doing with a cookie yarn is, I just wanted to show you how there's really no rule for the increases, so don't feel weird if yours look completely different than mine. This is the one I'm doing for cookie, and as you can see, there are like four, like one here, actually this one here is because I did the demo on it, and then three that are closer, and then nothing is happening, and then there are three more, and this is where I'm at. I'll show you. So this is how it's looking, and I'm done with this one. Again, it's pretty fitted, but I also see, I noticed that with the more I handle, the more there's like handling this, the kind of looser and wider it gets. So I'm quite okay with the tight fit, and this is my second one. And I just have a few more rows to make. To be perfectly honest, I kind of missed on the increases, and you can see my first increase on the second sleeve is one row higher, but I'm not a perfectionist. So yeah, but the other ones are pretty well matched. So it's kind of, it's not hard to see the right row, and if you missed it, then you just like frog a couple of rows. I did that also on the next stitch that I missed, but this one I discovered it a bit late. It's pretty unnoticeable when you put on the sweater. So yeah, let me know in the comments if there's any information you need, something that I missed, but this is what you should do. And I'm going to stop now and make my other sleeve. And in the next part, I'm going to show you one of the best parts, in my opinion, in this sweater, which is creating the body without any seams. So have fun making your sleeves, and I'll see you soon in another video. Bye.